Most e-commerce stores don't lose money on Google Ads because their products are bad. They lose money because they're asking Google to make decisions with almost no information. One campaign, a tiny budget, a week of data, and once it fails, owners shut off the ads and call the platform broken. But a good Google Ads e-commerce strategy isn't random. It's methodical. And once you understand how to feed Google Ads correctly, profit usually follows. Coming up in this video, I'll show you how to structure your Google Ads so you're not guessing on what campaigns actually work, how to get budgets and the timelines that let the data do its job instead of killing the campaigns too early, and how to turn Google Ads from a frustrating expense into a reliable sales channel for your e-commerce store right now. But before we touch the campaigns and settings, I want you to picture this. You show up at a lake you've never fished before. You've got one rod, one lure, and you cast once. 10 minutes go by, nothing bites. So you decide, yeah, this lake must be terrible. You pack up and you leave. That's exactly how most people run Google Ads. Now imagine doing it a smarter way. You bring 3 different rods, 3 different lures, and you cast into different depths at different spots. You actually wait long enough to see what happens. Pretty quick, one rod starts getting hit more than the others. The lake wasn't empty, you just needed more lines in the water. Google Ads works the exact same way. You don't win by guessing the right campaign type on day one. You win by running small, intentional sets of campaigns long enough for the winner to reveal itself. And once you understand that, everything else starts to make sense. The first key for a successful Google Ads e-commerce strategy is to start before you feel ready. Here's the first key. Honestly, it's the one most people get wrong. You don't get results from Google Ads by waiting until everything feels perfect. I see this all the time. Store owners tell themselves, I need more products first, or my site isn't ready yet. I'll start once the organic traffic picks up. And on the surface, that sounds reasonable. But here's the real problem. If you're not running ads, you're not collecting data. And if you're not collecting data, Google has nothing to learn from. No impressions, no clicks, no conversions, no signals. And that just means 6 months from now, you're in the exact same place, just older and really more frustrated. The key idea here is simple. Google Ads doesn't reward readiness. Google Ads rewards momentum. Your first campaigns are not about being profitable. They're about teaching the system who your buyers are. That's why even a basic setup beats waiting. A simple search campaign, a basic shopping campaign, and a Performance Max campaign connected to your merchant center. Nothing fancy, just enough structure to start generating some feedback. Because once ads are live, something important happens. You start learning, or rather Google starts learning what people actually search before they buy, what products that get attention, where the clicks die and where they turn into sales. And that learning only happens once you're in motion. So if you take nothing else from the first key, take this: starting creates leverage. And once you're moving, the next key is about making sure you're testing in the right way. Key number 2, run a simple multi-campaign setup from day one. Let's talk about how you actually start, because this is where people either set themselves up to learn or to guess. And a lot of store owners ask, well, which campaign should I run? Shopping, search, Performance Max? And the honest answer is that's the wrong question, because one campaign is just one opinion. If it fails, you don't know why. If it works, you don't know if it's the best option. That's why the strategy we use, and the one I recommend, is a simple 3 campaign setup from the start. Nothing exotic. First, a search campaign. This captures people who already know what they're looking for, so it's high intent, clear demand, and it tells you what buyers are actively typing in to Google. Second, a shopping campaign, connected to your Google Merchant Center, of course. This puts the actual products in front of people with images, prices, titles, everything. For e-commerce, this is often where the volume starts to show up. Third, a Performance Max campaign also tied to your Google Merchant Center. This gives Google room to learn across search, shopping, YouTube, display, all in one place using automation. And here's why that matters. Each of these campaign types behaves differently. They surface different types of intent. They fail and succeed for different reasons. Once you run all three at the same time, something powerful happens. You're no longer guessing which approach should work. You're letting the data tell you which one is working. And realistically, you don't need huge budgets to do this. Modest budgets split across 3 campaigns is enough to start seeing patterns. And once you have multiple campaigns running, the next key becomes critical, because if your budgets are wrong, it's not going to work. Key number 3, budget like you're buying data, not just sales. Now, this is where most Google Ads accounts quietly die. Not because the strategy was bad or the products didn't sell, but because the budgets never gave the system a fair shot. And here's the pattern I see over and over again. Someone turns on the campaigns with a tiny budget, then checks the results after a month. No sales yet, or maybe one random sale. So the store owner panics. They tweak things or they shut it all down and decide Google Ads just doesn't work. The problem wasn't Google. It was the expectations. So when you start running ads, your first job is not profitability, it's learning. That's why I like to frame budgets this way. You're not buying sales, you're buying data. And realistically, that means spending somewhere in the $1,000 to $2,000 per month range and committing to it for at least 2 to 3 months. Not forever, but long enough for the patterns to start to show up. Because Google automation needs 2 things to stabilize. They need click volume and they need time. So if conversions start to trickle in slowly, the system never locks into what actually is working and it keeps guessing. But once you cross a threshold of clicks, conversions, things start to change. The campaigns smooth out, the costs normalize, and the winners start separating from the losers. And once you're spending enough to learn, the next key becomes unavoidable, because if your tracking is wrong, all that spend is teaching Google the wrong lesson. Key number 4, let the winner reveal itself. So once you've got the multi-campaign running and enough budget behind it, something interesting starts to happen. That noise dies down. And instead of guessing, you're starting to see the patterns emerge. And almost every time, one campaign begins to separate itself from the rest. More consistent conversions, better return, cleaner performance week after week. That's what I call the money button. Most store owners never find the money button, not because it doesn't exist, but because they shut things down too early. They'll run 3 campaigns and then panic when one underperforms in month 2. But here's the reality. Different campaign types learn at different speeds. Search might show results quickly, but cap out. Shopping might start slow, then quietly become the workhorse. And if you don't give them time together, you never see that contrast. This is exactly what happened with our auto parts manufacturing client. We didn't crown a winner in the first few weeks. We let the data pile up. And once it did, one campaign clearly outperformed the others by a lot. And at that point, decisions got a lot simpler. You don't really optimize everything. You scale what's already proving itself. You increase the budget there, you protect it, clean up what's dragging. But, and this matters, none of that works if Google is learning from bad information. And that's why the next key is non-negotiable. Clean tracking. Key number 5, clean tracking, or you're optimizing the wrong thing. This key isn't exciting, but it's where e-commerce accounts quietly sabotage themselves. Because Google Ads will always optimize towards whatever data you give it. The problem is a lot of stores are giving it bad data. And here's what this usually looks like. Purchases firing twice, conversion values not tracking. Everything's marked as a conversion, so Google thinks it's doing great while you're actually losing money. So here's the simple rule. If the tracking is wrong, optimization is also wrong. Your purchase event needs to be clean, 1 event per purchase, with real revenue passed back. And just as important, you need to separate primary from secondary conversions. Primary is the thing you actually want. For e-commerce, that's the purchase. Secondary events like add to cart, begin checkout, those are signals. They're not actually goals. Why this matters so much now is because bidding is automated. And when you tell Google this is success, it will aggressively chase more of that. So if success is duplicate purchase, you're going to get garbage optimization, busy dashboards with empty bank accounts. But once tracking is clean, the next lever actually starts to matter even more, and that is your product feed. Key number 6, feed quality makes shopping work or not. If you've ever said or thought shopping ads just didn't work for my store, this key is probably why. Because for e-commerce, a huge chunk of Google Ads performance doesn't live in your campaigns. It lives in your product feed. And here's the problem. Most stores treat their product feed like a form they have to fill out. Title, sure. Image, good enough. Identifiers, maybe. And then they're surprised when shopping and Performance Max underperform or not at all. Here's the key idea. Your product feed is your ad copy. Google can only show your products if they're eligible, and it can only show them cheaply if they're relevant. That starts with titles that match how people actually search. For example, if you sell auto parts, people don't search poetic descriptions. They search things like year, make, model, part number. If you sell fitness tools, it's dimensions, use case, where it fits in their life. When those details are missing, Google struggles. Your products show less, your CPCs go up, and shopping looks expensive. Once your feed is solid though, the next lever becomes obvious, and that's how to use search to capture intent the right way. Key number 7, search isn't dead, it's just misused. Every year, someone declares that search is dead. And every year, search quietly keeps printing money for e-commerce store owners everywhere. The issue isn't search, it's how people structure it. Here's a common mistake. They dump a massive keyword list. They mix brand and non-brand together, and they send everything to a generic collection page, or worse, the homepage. And they look at the results and say search is too expensive. What's actually happening is intent mismatch. You don't want to use search like a keyword dumping ground. High intent searches only going to the right landing pages. People searching for exact part numbers, specific ingredients, clear use cases. Those searches are incredibly valuable if the ad and the landing page line up. 2 simple moves fix most search accounts. First, separate brand from non-brand. Brand will almost always look amazing if you mix it in with prospecting, and it hides weak performance and gives you kind of a false confidence. The second thing you do is build small, tight ad groups. Not hundreds, just a handful to start. Each one tied to a specific intent and landing page that actually answers the intent. Search is not about volume. It's about matching the moment someone is ready to buy. And once search is doing its job, it feeds the bigger system, which brings us to the most misunderstood campaign type of all. Key number 8, Performance Max is your scale engine, not a shortcut. The Performance Max campaign is probably the most misunderstood campaign type in Google Ads right now. Some people treat it like magic, others turn it on, get confused, and shut it off, and neither approach works. Here's the key idea. Performance Max doesn't replace strategy, it amplifies it. So if you feed it weak inputs, it will scale weak results. If you feed it strong inputs, it's going to become your biggest lever for growth. Where most stores go wrong is giving PMax almost nothing to work with. One product feed, one creative, no audience signals, and they say, I don't know what it's doing. Of course not. It's starving for data. For Performance Max to work well, you need 3 things. Real creative assets, not stock images, not generic headlines, short video clips, lifestyle images, clear benefit copy. Second, audience signals, past purchases, site visitors, high intent customer segments. You're not restricting Google, you're giving it a starting point. And 3, good product data. That's where your feed work pays off again. When those things are in place, PMax starts doing exactly what it's actually good at. Finding incremental conversions, expanding reach, and scaling what's already working. And once it's scaling, the final limiter isn't the platform anymore. It's your site, your offer, and your margins. Key number 9, your offer and landing page decide ROAS. This is the part people don't want to hear because it's easier to blame ads than to look at the page. But here's the truth. Google Ads doesn't create return on ad spend or ROAS, it reveals it. Ads can bring quality people to your store, but they cannot convince someone to buy a bad offer. So when a store struggles at this stage, it's usually not the traffic quality, it's conversion friction. A few things matter more than anything else. First, mobile speed and clarity. Most e-commerce traffic is mobile, and if the page loads slowly, jumps around, or hides key info, people bounce no matter how good the ad was. Second, pricing, shipping, and returns clarity. If buyers have to hunt for shipping costs and return policies, hesitation creeps in, killing ROAS. Third, proof and trust. Reviews, guarantees, clear policies. People want reassurance that they're not taking a risk. Fourth, confidence. For auto parts, this was huge. Anything that helps someone say, yes, this fits my vehicle. And finally, strong product content. Benefits, specs, images that show scale and use, short demo videos that remove uncertainty. Google Ads can find you the buyers. Your page decides if they convert. And once those pieces start clicking together, that's when scaling stops feeling risky and when it actually starts happening. If you want to learn how to boost e-commerce sales sustainably but not with spikes, with steady, repeatable growth, I've got a video that breaks down strategies to give you long-term momentum for that store. Check that video out right here. All the best.